what I'm experiencing right now. You got this fantasy, and uh, paid monkeys. You know what I mean? It's like I got monkeys, flying monkeys on behalf of monkey minds. You know who you are, such and such, blah blah blah. But yeah, paying for motherfuckers to like make grand displays and then drive off playing your song, and it's just shit lame. You know what I mean? But basically, it's like I feel like what's happening right now is like communities. It's like the gladiatorial games. Everybody's getting whooped and depraved, and you know what I mean? For somebody has selected certain people as champions. Not champions, because that's the people select that, but some people were selected to crack the whip on behalf of the establishment, and they all have the same appearance. They wear the same accessories, whatever. You know what I mean? You can see them as a belly. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna get into it, but it's just a group of motherfuckers that are trying to push an agenda and keep a certain like grid over society. And what I represent is a champion, is a person who self-taught everything, no role models, went into the world on my own and discovered what it's really about, developed, stayed saucy, made beautiful music, etc. And then there's other motherfuckers who had guidance, who had, mentors, who had parents or predecessors, whatever, that made it easy for them to do what they're doing. So for some reason, they got a problem with me for being a natural. And they keep trying to put me at odds with certain people who I recognize as not even in my same league category, because I'm an actual like creative person from the ground up, from every bit of piece of information that goes into the metadata of a sound, a song, whatever. And an image, you know what I mean, a visual, whatever. It's a spiritual thing when I do it. It's not just I'm stunting, I'm flexing, I'm talking shit, you know what I mean? This is about beating death multiple times, and that's what brings me to my point, because I wanted to tell this story all the way through, as far as what makes me different, or what I actually have gone through, because these are the things that make us who we are. And I've never been a person to be like, I'm just gonna be like this, you know what I mean? Because this is what's working. So, 2014 is, my police encounter. This is a very important thing to me because it's a pivotal moment. It's like a hard reset in my life when everything changed. But 2014, I was in LA. We've been doing music. I'm trying to give you a bridge version. I could go into more detail in a later date, but 2014, I was in LA. I was coming back and forth, doing the artist grind, hustle, you know what I mean? Fucking with the label, coming back to the Bay to like kick it with my brother, my family, my friends at the time, and try to motivate people and just tell them what I seen, bring in some merch, to my brother, whatever, to just kind of like be a motivational factor as best as I could. No role models, you do what you can, what you can conceive of. You don't know what you don't know. But I came back to visit. I was kicking it with the homies. I sipped one Corona. We was chopping it up. We were supposed to go out later that night. And then I was walking home in the street, down the street, Cedar, which is near the high school that I went to in his hometown, Newark, California. Walking home, across the street, and got pulled over for jaywalking. The cops coming down the expressway. It's not busy, but he pulls me over, and then I'm stopped near this public storage on the grassy side of the street, because this expressway is a street. There's houses, and then so he pulls me over, and they doing the whole thing. It's like, officer, what's his name? You know what I mean? Just like a regular dude. But Then he calls for backup as he's running my name. So I'm standing there on the side of the street. There's cars driving by, but it's like the public storage. So it's like one of those kind of post-industrial areas. There's a Sleazy 8 is right there. If you're from Newark, you know what it is. But so they pulled me over. Now it's 2 officers. And the homies had showed me a video when I was in LA, which is peculiar. It kind of was like planting a seed. But they showed me this dude, people pulling their phones out to film the traffic stops. It's just on some safety type shit. And, my inclination was to do the same thing, to kind of just be like, yo, because I've been a minority black my whole life, you know what I mean? Native. But policing I'm very familiar with, and it's always been, I grew up on NWA. I know what it is. The Watch riots, my family's from LA, Compton, whatever, all of that. So, I pull my phone out. The officer right here is like, put your phone away. And I was just kind of like, my response, at a certain point, I just was like, for what? I'm just, I told him I was about to call somebody to let him know I was going to be late. But come to find out, they would think that I might call somebody to come spray the spot up or whatever. It didn't make sense to me, but it was just like, y'all doing too much. 2 officers, one right here, one right here. One's running the information. So he runs up on me and grabs for my phone. I go to put it back in my pocket. Then this officer comes out the car. That's 2 officers. Now they both got me arm barred up against the truck. Holding my arms, arm barred against the truck, trying to cuff me, basically saying, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting. At certain times in life, when you just been through enough, you've been through like every kind of like brutality, like neglect, psychological torture, warfare. You got people, your own family, blood, cursing your name. You've been through everything, you know what I mean? It's like, kind of disassociate from arbitrary rulings. And it was just like, y'all trying to cut, I'm not going, you know what I mean? It was just one of those things. I wasn't necessarily swinging on these motherfuckers. I was just tense, like, nah. They was trying to cuff me, behind my back, the arm bar. Somewhere in that process, 3 more officers show up. There was a video, and a lot of this is in retrospect, because it goes from the arm bar, officers show up, the guys behind me, he actually has his camera. He was coming from like the public storage spot, so I kind of see him, and I'm yelling back to him. If you've seen the video, I have to find it, but yelling back to him like my name, and just telling him like, because it's escalating to that point to where it's like, all right, we're in uncharted territories now. These motherfuckers about to smash my head through the glass, like arm bar in the neck, and I'm just like, I ain't going, you know what I mean? Like, what's the nature of my cause? What's the nature of my charges? You know what I mean? I'm trying to be dignified, and just that spirit that takes over you when it's like, all right, this is clearly wrong what they're doing, and I'm not standing for it. But, obviously there's hard lines that society has drawn with legal language and reclassification of sovereign rights and lands and blah, blah, blah. But it goes from now it's 4 or 5 police officers, and I'm, in the glass. And then at some point from that process, they tell him to turn the camera off. And it goes, I don't know what happened from the car to, I just wake up face down on the grass that's like behind me. So I go from like armbar in the car to face down on the grass behind me. And they just whoop them, you know what I mean? Like busting my eyes, knees in the ribs, like arms being yanked, it's just like 4 or 5 officers at least, you know what I mean? Holding me down, and just like hard surface nightstick, whatever the fuck, flashlight, you know what I mean? My shit was busted up. I wake up face down on the grass, so I had already been tased, like, to the point to where, like, heart stopped, blood dried out, whatever you want to call it, in retrospect, of course, because I'm still recovering. It took me, like, 7+ years to recover from what eventually would take place in the totality. But so I wake up face down on the grass, and I'm just like, all right. Like, that was my instinct, is just like to cut the bullshit. Like, what are y'all, clearly they was taking out all their frustrations. They was like, we got one of those uppity niggers, you know what I mean? And they were just like, I don't know if it was their directive to get me in that situation. It'd be feeling like shit is like Truman Show, Manchurian Candidate orchestrated to us. Like, we plant this seed, then we lead him here, then he reacts in this way, responds in this way, and we got him because we set it up this way. And there's a lot of sacrifice shit that goes on in the industry. And I was 27 years old at the time, I think. 26, 27. So, they eventually, I guess, I'm still getting tased, and they just like punching me and kneeing me in all situations, like on some Rodney King shit, on some like George Floyd, on some Oscar Grant, on some everything that you could think of. That's what the fuck was happening. And you know how I know it's surreal? Because it was happening on Smith Street and Cedar. So Smith, you know what a Smith is if you watch The Matrix. So it's like when in the Animatrix, when the world record vignette where the guy's about to break through running, and his intensity and his dedication to the craft has helped him to supersede and raise in his vibration to where he's about to break through the code. And that's where I was at as far as just dedication to the music and the craft and like my rhymes and my songs and everything. It was like I was working on the magic in that level to where I'm becoming supersonic. And I feel like maybe the Smiths were called or the agents were called and took over the motherfuckers or whatever, but their vendetta was like, kill this nigga. And it went from that to then I'm face down, I come to, and then eventually, I don't know how they stopped, but there was an ambulance already on the way. So in my mind, I don't want to assume, but it's like somebody called them niggas and was like, yeah, they thought I was dead, or it was like we need to jumpstart his heart back or something. I don't know. It was just like, he's not an organ donor. I don't know what took place in their conversation between me being face down in the car, or armbarred into the window like this, two arms hemmed up, to then I know I got tased in the back, so somebody had to hit me with the taser from the back. Pause. And then obviously I got to make light of it because it's just fucked up. But face down in the grass, ambulance shows up. Cops is now taking pictures of their knuckles. Everybody's consorting with each other. I'm sitting on the curb, handcuffed. Putting on a brave face. Cars is driving by in my hometown, 3 blocks from my high school, looking at me, and it's just like, I'm just like, what I mean? Not really processing the whole situation. But the ambulance shows up. They handcuffed me to the gurney, put me in the back of the ambulance. Like, if it was just everyday police beat a nigga up, take him to jail, I would have went in the back of the paddy wagon. I wouldn't have been in the motherfucking ambulance. So clearly they knew that this nigga might have died, or we gotta do something, you know what I mean? So they took me to the hospital. I cried in the back of the ambulance to the motherfucker because it was just like, it was like being reborn. And like, all of this is in retrospect, but in the moment, nigga shed some real thug tears. I don't know if I did all that, but I probably did. But just like that rage, I'm handcuffed to the gurney. Nigga took me to Washington Hospital. 2 officers now sitting in front of me. I'm handcuffed in the fucking on the gurney in the room facility, whatever, waiting for a nurse or something to come stitch me up. And then they're standing there with a digital camera showing each other other people who they whooped and kind of like cracking jokes and shit. And they wouldn't let me leave the hospital until I got a tetanus shot. They stitched me up. I had an arm in a sling. They dislocated my shoulder. I don't know what the fuck, but what then they did was give me a tranquilizer, which was like, it's called Thorazine or Glavacin, whatever the fuck they call it, but they forced me to take the shot because it was a tetanus shot. But if you look it up, it's called an antipsychotic. The amount that they gave me is up for debate, but I looked at the journal or whatever, and they said if they give you a certain amount of it, it's like it remagnetizes or recalibrates your magnetic field, and it makes you prone to seizures. So, you know, going forward, it was like I smoke weed, you know what I mean? But at a certain point in time, it was like I couldn't even smoke weed. This is after, but because of what the Thorazine did to me, it was like I got magnetized to the shadow realm, and it was like I was supposed to die there because they didn't kill me there. They tried to, but I came back. Some reason my purpose is stronger than what their purpose was, and we know what that is. We on a divine mission, but so that brings me back to what I started talking about. But the niggas, you know, then they forced me to take the shot. They stitched me up. They put me in the sling, and then they put me in the car, and then they took me to Santa Rita. And then I was in Santa Rita for 48 hours, just like in a room full of a whole bunch of motherfuckers and 20 degrees, sleeping on cement, can't sleep. Everybody in the same, you know what it is, and when you're inside, like that type of shit where it's just like, get up, move, get up, move, get up, move, get up, move. Crowds, new people, move into this room. It's just like I was reborn in the institution. Because that on that ground that day is like I died, but then it was like I was reborn, and then the first day I was alive with a new consciousness, hard reset, tranquilizer, jail. So it's like my whole life, my whole mind frame has been institutionalized since then. So it's like I've been pursuing music for maybe 8 years before that. So it's like my muscle memory was like just get back to it. All I knew was that. So it's like, in a way where you're kind of like a savant, or in a way where you're kind of like, that's all you know. I'm self-taught, so what I know is what I do well. I pursue that, and I inform my life based on that. So I kept going. I kept pursuing. I went back to LA eventually after a year of court to fight a felony assault on a police officer, peace officers, because they said I was swinging on them and shit. In the blackout, I don't know what the fuck happened, but I don't think so, because, you know, they already had me yoked up, and then it was 3 more of them, 4, whatever. So, who knows, though, you know what I mean? Shit, warrior spirits. Some kept me strong throughout that process, because they couldn't cut, you know. These niggas it was like a big dude and a stocky dude, and then it was like some other Mexicans and that showed up, like Latino officers. But, so, you know, it's a very spiritual, tribal experience that I'm going through. You know, when I'm telling you this, all this stuff is cyclical. But, so yeah, I was in jail. I got out of jail. I went to court for a year. And I had to go back to mom's house. And I was in the back room, in the sunroom, you know what I mean? Just laying on the floor, just like, still making music, but it was like I didn't have my full brain chemistry. So it's like my shit started sounding like a brand new perspective. So that's why I sound hella younger and like spiritually gifted, but like childlike on those second projects, Williams Evergreen, 880G Slide, and whatever after that. You know, it was like first project, year one was La Menace, and then it was like all my information from the 20 plus years, and then it was like Kill Switch, and then it was like album 2 is like Newborn, so that's why it's optimistic and it's back in nature. Then album 3 is like the funk, it's like, you know, then I started going up the chakras and just tapping in. But it's like I had to ascend through a bunch of brain fog and bullshit, and it was like once they did that and I survived and I got out of jail and I fought the case, then all of a sudden I got hella nemesis and fucking minions and all these random ass people that's being empowered to come against me because what I represent is some Malcolm X shit or some Stokely Carmichael shit or some Huey Newton shit or something. Because prior to that, we did a Black Panther video at Deframery Park and the police were circling the block. You can ask the homies if they want to tell the truth. There was certain rappers that said that they saw it, or just people who I spoke to later on. So it's like, obviously I was a person of interest already, so that was their perfect moment to take me out, 27 Club. Some reason it didn't happen, I woke up. And then I had to go through the shadow realm, the dark valley of the shadow of death. Nigga, you barely made it with your life, you know. But I'm back in Hollywood, I did the whole thing. And ever since then, motherfucking police been following me. Before that, they was following me because my grandfather's in the military and we're Native Americans. So the whole policing of the this shit has been for real for me, not no motherfucking joke, not no trend. I got uncles who got murdered, you know what I mean? I got real shit that's been going on, generational curses coming through the lineage, you know, to make sure that we ain't shit. So when I got random motherfuckers with privilege coming at me, trying to make me feel a certain way because they have something that they feel like I want, but I don't care about because my life is way realer. When it came down to it, when it comes down to it, it's like, you know, it's like, and you got bitches getting involved and riding around, and you got friends switching sides and all this shit because it's easy to be a part of the winning team, quote unquote, even though this shit is all orchestrated and scripted. Like I just said, Trail of Tears, like, there was niggas in the tribe that sold their people out for a little bit of land. That's just what it is. So it's like, I'm not offended when niggas like you or them, pardon me, because I'm talking to friends here about other people, but when niggas like them try to get all big and bad because they got some resources and they ain't never had to go through what I went through, and you know what I mean, that shit is ridiculous to me, because nigga, you couldn't beat me in 21 if we played one-on-one. So let alone anything else, you know what I mean? It just is. I don't feel bad for being a real one and having a real life experience that most don't have because they never stood on anything other than what was already set out for them to. Like, all you gotta do is take the wheel, nigga. The car's already been built for you. Like, that's cool. Congratulations. I'm proud of you, but don't come at me when I'm a giant. You know what I mean? It don't make sense. And that's what the community, that's what this whole thing is. It's like, how do you take out a giant? You gotta empower somebody else to be a nemesis and then send them with the whole Voltron Megazord suit. And it's like, well, I'm naturally this gifted. You know what I mean? I don't need no community of people to empower me. And thus far, it's been communities of people trying to defame me. And like, you know what I mean? I was coming up, and then all of a sudden, the shit switched up. The Gemini face switched up, and it was like, oh, fuck this nigga, you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, I think what happened is a COINTELPRO thing where there was rumors spread in the community in Oakland and etc., Berkeley, whatever, Los Angeles, all these places that I frequented and was seeking my, to receive my birthright, which was a podium to express the Godhead to the people based on an intense, viscerally lived life experience. Not no privileged silver spoon, not even a copper spoon, nigga. Like, you know, relatives moving in to like make sure that we still got it. Moving in, everybody staying in one room, nigga. Driving, having to move over here, going to this school. Like, there's no comparison, and I'm willing to sit on a panel and debate anybody, any one of these motherfuckers that's trying to play these little mind games, sending, you know, minions to like, you know, shadow box and then like get in the car and play the song loud and drive off, and it's like, okay, so what, nigga, you know what I mean? That's cool. Tell me a story about what you went through, though. Tell me something that, you know, give me some insight onto like what this reality is about, because right now you sounding like a puppet for a group of people who's trying to keep control over the world. They give you the whip to crack it because they know you'll love that feeling. It's just like a nigga joining the force. It's like they was getting bullied or they felt inadequate, so they joined a group of people because they're strength in numbers, and that is what makes them feel strong. You know what I mean? But I'm a nigga who's moved. I am a native, an indigenous, who has moved through society, and my erudition is all based on my intellect and the strength and will of determination of, even when the forces are put against me, I still rise. So I don't see the comparison, and it's kind of embarrassing that they would put me in the category with somebody that doesn't even, you know what I mean, that hasn't been through it like that. It's like, why would a nigga got a whole, like, I'm trying to come up with a good metaphor for this. It's like I had to build a car from scratch, and the nigga shows up with a bunch of Hot Wheels, you know what I mean? Or the nigga shows up, like, not even, let's get off. I had to, like, break down what makes a tree synthesize all the ingredients, and then replant the seed in the soil in a shitty terrain environment and still nurture that tree to grow. And then this motherfucker, these people show up with, these. And it's just like, oh yeah, we the king of the trees. And it's just like nobody else, it's just so preposterous to me that I can't come up with a metaphor. But I think it's that gladiator thing where all of these damaged egos in society love to see brilliance destroyed because it makes it easier for them to justify the negative feelings that they feel are of inadequacy. So they will pick anybody that's willing to be an O'Doyle rules faced ass nigga to come against the throne in order to have a hurrah moment where they all feel that vindication for mediocrity or whatever, you know what I mean? And I'm only calling it how I see it because they've been coming at me. It's been years, it's one of those things. It's like I continue to get stronger as an individual and better at empathizing and communicating with people. Like a Saiyan, I'm like a Super Saiyan as far as like all these friction in these wars just make me stronger. But it's interesting to see that people who I don't even really know care that much about me that they are willing to pay strangers to do cartwheels when I walk by and shout out phrases and trying to control my mind frame, you know what I mean? Because clearly I'm that ill of a motherfucker that my mind is source code, so they need to access my mind and get me to acknowledge them and be like, yes, you are great. But if I don't feel that, I don't feel that. And it comes from me having a real ass motherfucking life that's still real, and most of them couldn't deal with it. And I think they know that, and it's like they don't want me to exist in the same room because it makes what they're doing less cool to them. Maybe because I don't care, you know what I mean? I can only fuck one girl. I can only eat one meal. I can only drive one car at a time. And I like to focus on those things when I'm doing them and learn the nuance. I'm not one of those greedy motherfuckers that just needs to nothing for you, you know what I mean? So to me, that's insecurity. And I'm very Freudianly inclined in the psychological aspects of overcompensation and all that. And people hate me because of the way that I articulate. Because you can't break it down in a way of like, well, you're a bitch or you're broke. It's like, I could talk to you about the system any day and break down why you're in the position that you're in. But I got love for people and I choose to let them exist how they want to exist, because I'm not going to tell a kid that the game controller is not activated. I'm going to be like, yeah, nigga, you got me. You know what I mean? That's just, you want to see the kid grow and be great. I'm about the next generation, you know what I mean? But when motherfuckers come at me with some preconceived notions and they mistaken, it's like, what am I supposed to do? Just, you know what I mean? Put the ball back in the trunk and not go for the layup, go for the dunk, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm a hooper, shit. You balling, nigga. But, yeah, that's, so there's more to it than that. There's Nemesis sagas that have developed since then. Like, since 2015, 2014, it's been, like, John Wick, Lil John Wick. But I'm just trying to get a quick one off to let you know we are not the same. I am a Martian. Maybe not a Martian, but I'm marching, you know what I mean? Weezy Wee, shout out to Weezy Wee. But, shit. I don't even know you, bruh. You know what I mean? Niggas are fascinated with my story and my songs, my song structure, the wisdom that I possess, and I'm gonna leave it at that. But yeah, check my motherfucking stats. Check my backstory. Talk to some people that really know me. Get familiar with my information from the start and peep the journey, and you'll know. Shit ain't for play. This is a divine quest. This is a cosmic quest. This ain't no side quest. I'm not getting narrowed down in a box